In this video, I'm going to outline how to decide which currency pair to trade. Now, when you're deciding which currency pair to trade, the first concept you need to really cement into your mind is this concept. The concept of pairing strength against weakness. This is what gives you the highest probability currency pair to trade. Think of it like this. If you had to guess which of these two arm wrestlers would win, which one would you guess would have the victory in this arm wrestling battle? Well, it's the one with the stronger arm, of course. You'd expect strength to overcome weakness. You'd say that the highest probability outcome is that the strong arm will beat the weak arm. In exactly the same way, in order to develop a high probability currency pair to trade for the day, we're looking to pair a strong currency against a weak currency. So the first thing that we're looking to do each and every day is to pair strength against weakness. Now, once we've done that, whenever I come to my desk in the morning, the first thing I want to do is to read up on a previous session wrap. A session wrap is a summary of the last market session. Market sessions is divided into three. First of all, we have the Asia session, then we have the European session, and then we have the American session. And that makes up the whole trading day. At the end of each session, there's a summary, summarizing the most significant events. When I'm reading those summaries, I'm looking for any indication that we have a strong or a weak currency. So you could see something like maybe there's been a surprise interest rate decision. That would heavily impact a currency. Maybe at the time of speaking, this is July the 10th, we're in the middle of the COVID-19 crisis. It could be that there's been a spike in COVID-19 cases and a country has had to reinstigate its lockdown process. Perhaps there's something like a surprise data point that has taken the market by surprise. Maybe a current country is doing better or worse than expected. It could be a political development. Either way, what it has to be is something significant, noteworthy, something that's market moving and is going to give one currency strength or weakness. Now, once you've done that, it will quite quickly become clear which currency is strong and which currency is likely to be weak in the coming session. Another little tip and trick is if there isn't an obvious strong or weak currency to be looking at in terms of individual news for those currencies, look at the intermarket analysis and have a look at your own research to see if you can see here if there is a key risk tone for trading. So let me just give an example. Here's the Bloomberg terminal, and we can see today, just looking at the markets, we can see that the Asian markets traded quite heavily in the red, with the Hang Seng Shanghai down nearly 2%. We also had bond yields lower on the day. We had crude prices, Brent crude and US crude, both down over a percentage point on the day. We also have copper prices slightly up. Now, taking this as a whole, we can then conduct some intermarket analysis, and that will tell us what kind of risk sentiment market we're in. So if we're seeing stocks falling, which we largely have, although European stocks are making some recovery at the time of speaking, commodities, oil's been falling, copper's been rising, so a mixed perspective there, bond yields have been falling. So taking it as a whole, the market is tilted towards a risk offsetting. Now that gives us some good clues, because in a risk-off market, we know that the high beta currencies like the Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar, and Canadian dollar tend to lose value. Whereas the safe haven currencies like the Swiss franc, the Japanese yen, and at the time of speaking, the US dollar, tend to increase in value. So straight away, we could see that this gives us some important clues about which currencies to trade. We now need to decide on a pair to trade. Now, each and every day on HYCM's channel here on Twitter, I post the market mood for the day. And so here's just an example here on the 10th of July of what that market mood looks
Welcome
like.
to HYCM Insight with myself, Charles Cochran, the Chief Currency Analyst at HYCM. The market mood for the session ahead is as follows. Sentiment is negative from overnight trading on COVID-19 concerns and the news that US President Trump is planning tariffs against France and banning US government from buying goods and services from several Chinese tech firms, including Huawei and ZTE. The dollar extended yesterday's gains as COVID-19 second wave fears rise. This should result in the US dollar being supported today. By contrast, the Australian dollar should be weak today. As a high beta currency, it loses its value in this risk-off market environment. And Australia's PM Morrison said news from Victoria State is very concerning and announced Australia will reduce the number of inbound arrivals as well as conducting a nationwide review of hotel quarantine. Therefore, expect Aussie US dollar sellers from pullbacks. Day trade outlook. We expect this trade to play out before the end of the US session, and the main trade risks are any fast fall in Australians' COVID-19 cases would invalidate this outlook, as well as any reversal of risk tone would weaken the US dollar and invalidate this outlook as well.
So there you have an example. Now, in that example, you can see that I've also identified key technical areas for selling. Here we have a daily pivot point, and we could expect sellers on any retracement back up to that level. So that is how you decide which is a high probability pair to trade. We saw that there was risk off market. We saw that President Trump had announced potentially some new tariffs against France. We saw some more bad news for Australia in terms of COVID-19 cases. So we've done our important work and we found strength against weakness. We're expecting a stronger US dollar on risk-off tones and a weaker Australian dollar on local bad news for Australia in terms of COVID-19 cases, as well as high beta currencies likely to sell off in that risk-off market. So we decided on a pair to trade. We've analysed the charts. Look for a key technical place to enter or exit. This is key. When you decide on a pair to trade, you also have to decide where you might enter. Each day for HYCM, I analyse an individual currency pair, some swing trades, some intraday trades, and we look and see where a key technical area to enter is. And then, once you've done all the above, you want to consider a final factor, which is your conviction level. Now, just because you've identified a high probability currency pair to trade doesn't mean that your conviction level is high. So today, for instance, yes, the Australian US dollar short bias looks like the highest conviction opportunity, but the conviction levels are low because market sentiment at the time of speaking has been switching from on to off to on to off to on to off multiple times during the last couple of weeks. So we're seeing a market that's torn between on one side the hopes of economic recovery and on the other side the fears of coronavirus outbreaking into a second wave and shutting down economies. And the market can't decide what the clear path ahead is. So conviction levels are low. Now, an example where you might have high conviction levels is here. It's a trade that I took around March when the Federal Reserve had a surprise interest rate cut, cutting by 50 basis points. This was likely to weaken the dollar against gold, and so I bought gold on the anticipated US dollar weakness and took a nice quick run to the upside based on that surprise Federal Reserve interest rate cut. It was a good example of the fundamentals being strong. We had strength against weakness, and we also had a high conviction level. So that's what tends to make the best trades. Now, obviously, I pick a high probability currency pair to trade every day, but that doesn't mean that you should necessarily trade every day. Look and wait for the highest conviction opportunities. I hope this video has helped you how to decide which currency pairs to trade. If it has helped you, please leave a comment underneath this video or share this video with your friends. And don't forget to come and listen and follow me on Twitter, either on my handle here at Giles Cochran CCA, or come along to HYCM and listen to the market mood updates each and every day. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you found this video